Hello everybody. So today I'm going to be making one of my best-selling soaps, which is lavender and patchouli. Hello. um, and I use lavender essential oil and patchouli essential oil, which is a nice blend. It's very earthy and still a little floral at the same time. Right here I'm adding in my lye water with, well, it's actually goat milk in the lye. So it's a lye solution with our farm fresh goat milk. And it's a little thick because sometimes as it sits, the fats in the milk will actually start to saponify a little bit. Plus you get a little bit of the lye that doesn't dissolve in there. So I'm using that strainer to make sure I don't get that in the soap. Although you could, and it won't hurt anything. It's just called lye lint, and it doesn't hurt anything at all. So I'm just going to use this spoon here to smoosh it through because it's not going to drain very quickly if I just let it sit there on its own. And most of the time when people pick up this bar of soap, I have to say it's either a love or hate. And I usually try and warn them before they pick it up because patchouli is one of those scents that either people love it or they hate it. And there's not a lot of people that just kind of say, well, I mean, it's okay. Most people are one or the other. But I would say the majority of my customers do like it. There are a few people that don't care for patchouli, but they're far and few between. And every time I make the lavender and patchouli, I like to add ground oats in it, which you'll see me add at the end. And it provides a little bit of exfoliation. I have them finely ground. I use like a bullet mixer blender, so it gets them pretty fine, almost like a flour consistency with a little bit of grit to it still. So it makes for a nice exfoliator in soap because as the water hits it, even those little bits of the oats that are a little bigger and didn't get ground up as much, they soften with water almost instantly, so it's not a very harsh exfoliant at all. And I feel like it lends itself to be a little soothing on the skin as well. And just mixing it in, just making sure everything is emulsified here. Sometimes it takes a little longer for everything to emulsify. I'm soaping normally at room temperature because using goat's milk, that will cause your soap to heat up faster than normal. Anytime you use anything with a sugar in it, whether it be honey or goat's milk or anything, any additive that would have a sugar content can cause your soap or will cause your soap to get hotter. And there I'm showing you my oats. You can see I'm almost out. I need to grind up some more. But you can see the consistency. Some are a little bit thicker than others. But anyway, like I said, I usually soap at room temperature, and then I pop my soaps directly into the refrigerator when I'm finished so that they don't end up cracking and overheating. Sometimes I get a partial gel, and sometimes I don't gel at all, and sometimes I get a full gel, even being in the refrigerator. I think a lot of times it has to do with what fragrance oil that I'm using and or essential oil. Sometimes it can heat up even more, than other times. So I always pop them in the fridge just to make sure that I don't have any issues. Even though even when I pop them in the refrigerator, I still have, there's my patchouli and lavender essential oil. Even when I do pop it in the refrigerator, I've never had one fully crack, but I'll get little cracks here and there, which to me is an indication that it got really, really hot. But I do use the wood molds. They're silicone in a wood mold, and so that is also an insulator. So I guess if I didn't use that, there would be less of a chance of that happening. And see, I use the dark patchouli. I've never used anything other than the dark. That's the one I tend to like, and it's not a nice, rich, deep smell. I just really like it. If I could make one soap, I've been asked that. People always ask me, what's your favorite soap? And I always say if I could only make one soap for the rest of my life, it would be lavender and patchouli. And if it wasn't that, then it would probably just actually be an unscented bar, believe it or not. I wish those sold better. Every once in a while I get people that request unscented, and you know, I try to keep them in stock for those people with super sensitive skin or sensitive to fragrance or essential oils. So I always try to keep unscented in stock, but I wish more people enjoyed just the simple unscented soap. After years of making, you know, all the different smells and the different essential oil blends and fragrance oils, although I love them, I really do, and appreciate each one of them, I just really like just plain unscented soap, maybe with a little additive like honey and oats or something like that, but no actual scent added would be my preference. Here's my molds. You can see where it's like the wood with the silicone liner. Those are from Nurture Soap, and these are my favorite. I know you could probably make them pretty easy because it's just literally a rectangle and then the silicone, because these things are pretty pricey. I want to remember that I paid like $150 a piece for these molds, but you know, I was worried that if I made them or tried to find the silicone, then the silicone wouldn't be as good of quality as the ones from Nurture Soap. So I've just invested in about 10 of these large molds here, and I get 18 bars of soap out of each mold. And here's we're pouring. Some people may measure off, I don't know. I just eyeball it, and usually it's pretty close. Every once in a while I get one loaf that may have, you know, a little bit more or a little bit less, but on average, I mean, it's after years of doing it, I think I've gotten actually pretty good at eyeballing it to get both loaves pretty dang close to being very equal. And this batter was really liquidy, and I don't know why, because I was at room temperature I didn't do anything different. Normally it's a little thicker by now, but it was just very runny, almost like I don't know how to describe it, just like a tomato soup kind of consistency, I guess. It was not very thick at all. I was planning on texturing the top, and as you'll see here in a minute, it just like I kept waiting and waiting, and it never really got thick enough to texture the top. Although obviously it would have had I waited a little longer, but I was ready to move on to make the next loaf of soap, so I didn't wait to texture the top. And that I don't think that's ever happened. But sometimes it's nice to just have a smooth top anyway, so it's fine. But of course I did have to add some little lavender buds and some oats to the top, because I feel like it makes, I prefer it. I don't know. I mean, they come off usually after the first couple times you use it, and then sometimes the oats get pressed into the soap and stay with it as you use it, but usually it'll just kind of come off. But there's something about having those additives that make it special. I don't know, you know, you can't buy them in the store like that, and it really shows that these are small batches of soap, because there's, you know, people that make the huge blocks of soap, and I guess it's still considered somewhat a small batch, but I consider these type of loaves very small batch, and there's a lot of I guess contact time with it when you're making it, when you're doing it by hand. And so when you have little toppings and little extras like that, it's kind of like the cherry on top or sprinkles on a cupcake or something like that. It's the way I look at it. So I always tend to add some sort of a topping. Not always, but if I don't add a topping, I texture it or swirl the top. Try and do something fun. I'm not as artistic as I would like to be. I see some people that make soaps that are absolutely beautiful, and they obviously have a very artistic eye and a wonderful ability. I don't. Okay, I had to turn it off and back on because I was waiting for the soap to get thick enough to texture, and as you can see here, it really never did. So I can't remember what I'm doing right here. Yeah, I was trying to texture it with that spoon, and then it just really wasn't thick enough to do anything with, because it was like that kind of consistency where if I would have pushed it with the spoon to try and texture it, if I moved it just a little bit, it would have, you know, fallen back down. think of like a meringue on a pie. If you don't get it stiff enough, it'll just collapse. And here's where I think I was probably just like deciding on what I was going to do because I didn't want to sit and wait for it. So I was deciding how I was going to do the top here. And there's my lavender and oats showing you there. That's what sometimes I'll put them on separate, but I had just put them all in the same bowl so I can just grab them without having to reach back in my big container. And I've made a couple other videos on my channel and they're just like sped through because sometimes I feel like when I'm making videos I don't know that I have a whole lot to talk about. Like on this, I'm struggling to figure out what to say so it's not completely boring, but you can actually watch the process. But I was going to make mention because I had somebody comment on one of my videos that I had, because I had on a tank top and my arms were not covered, and here my arms are still not completely covered. And so on my videos, they're not necessarily intended to teach you the right way, the proper way, the safest way to make soap. I'm just showing you me making soap because obviously you want to take all precautions when working with cold process and hot process soap because it can, if it gets on your skin, the lye is what I'm referring to. If it gets on your skin, it can cause a serious burn. You can go blind if it gets in your eye, so you should wear eye protection. You know, wear gloves so that it doesn't get on your hands because that's going to be you're at most risk because your hands are right there in it, and also your eyes. But, you know, as with everything, I guess we gain a certain level of comfort, not to say that that's safe, but, you know, I've been making soap for a long time and something could happen to me the next time I make soap. So you should technically always take precautions and wear closed-toed shoes, long sleeve shirts, eye protection, you know, just so that you're safe. And I just wanted to make mention of that in case someone watching this has never made soap before. I could always make a video on all of the precautions, but there's so many of them probably already made that it wouldn't be necessary, I guess. But as you can see now, what I'm doing is taking them over to the refrigerator to sit in the refrigerator and cool off a little bit so that they don't get overheated. My refrigerator is only just like 5 feet away. I have a soap shed that I make all my soap in, and it is a 12 by 24, and that's it. I didn't mean to cut that off so short. I was just saying, okay, bye. But because I would notice my video switched over to the next one, you can see here that I am making a new batch of soap, which I will maybe post that one next. We'll see. The next one that I'm making is pink grapefruit, and I will see or talk to you guys later. Bye.